Hello guys, this is our 12th meeting, still in the introduction to semantic subject. So our topic today is about meaning and morphotic syntaxis, the semantic of grammatical categories. Let's move on to the next slide. The semantics of part of speech. Do you still remember what is part of speech? What is it? It's about just like noun, verb, something like that. Noun, verb, adverb, adjective, preposition, inter, what is it? Interjection. What else? Conjunction. That's what we call as part of speech. So I'm going to continue with this topic. Analyzing a language grammatically involves analyzing it into a variety of elements and structures, phoneme, morpheme, word, and within the word, syntactic categories of various sorts. Among these categories are the parts of speech, also known as lexical and grammatical categories. This is the same. It's just like noun, as I told you before. Noun, verb, adjective, determiner, and so on. We actually think of this classification as inherent properties of words. Sometimes, we imagine in the other word that the lexicon of English is arranged with each word specified as belonging to a particular part of speech, or sometimes we say to several parts of speech. A word's membership is a particular part of speech category is thus one of its inherent properties. As a result, we say that quickly is an adverb, right? Woman is a noun. Capsize is a verb. On the other hand, catch is both noun and verb. A catch and to catch. And green is noun. Verb and adjective, they are on the green, just like the council is greening the city. I like green asparagus. Next variation of part of speech system. The language of the world shows some variation in which part of speech the grammars contain. In a typical sentence of any language, we can identify constituents which are translated by and seem to function in a similar way to nouns and verbs in English or other familiar languages. But whether we want to call these words noun and verb, for example, depends on the number of considerations. Some researchers deny that there is any meaningful sense in which those two parts of speech can be said to exist universally. We will say more about noun and verb shortly, and once we move away from these categories, however, there is greater variation. Adjectives and adverbs are frequently missing from the inventory of grammatical categories found in the language of the world. How are part of speech delimited? The words language differ, however, in the part of speech recognized in their grammars. In order to understand this variation fully, we need to understand how we decide what parts of speech a language has. This is not a simple question, right? Modern European languages have inherited a ready-made classification of grammatical categories from traditional grammar as developed since ancient time. We simply take it for granted that it is appropriate to think of our language without any indigenous in any indigenous part of speech distinction, or when we examine a familiar language just like English observatively. We discover that determining exactly what the part of speech is complicated question. There are often several different ways of analyzing the fact that any one language. And the question of how the parts of speech should be identified seems often to answering in a variety of different ways. I think I have to skip some parts because it's just like it seems like you have to see it by yourself in the module because it is quite hard to read it. So let's move on to semantic criteria. One particularly obvious way of delimiting the categories is on the basis of semantic criteria, in other words, on the basis of commonalities in the meanings of words in any given class. This may well have been the way you yourself were first taught by think of major parts of speech like noun, verb, adjective, and adverb. And the following set of traditional definitions are representative of semantic interpretation of the part of speech. Just like, noun as substantive, word used as the name of living being or lifeless thing, and verb, word which denotes action or state of being. An adjective, word which denotes the property or characteristic of some object, person, or thing. So maybe we can get around by saying that nouns are the part of speech which can refer and which need not to do so. This might prove to be an effective strategy if it weren't for our second problem. So once we look closely at the question, we find that it isn't nouns that refer, but noun phrases. Consider the following sentences. Ice melt in the sun. Civilization is headed for scrap heap. Books annoy me. Ice that has not been chemically modified melt in the sun. Your tone dry little human civilization is headed for the scrap heap. These books we borrow from the library annoy me. That's obviously going to be a problem if we want to use the NP category as a way of defining noun. Second, not just N, S are the head of NP. Any pronoun can constitute an NP on its own. Yeah, I think that's all for the brief description about this topic. See you on the next season. Bye-bye.